What is up, guys? Welcome to a new video. So it turns out we were actually right, and 6.16 was deliberately small because 6.17 is going to be massive. There are actually 25 champions being buffed or nerfed on the PB at the moment, but that is going to be too much for one video, right? So for now, we're going to look at the AD carry changes. So there are 7 ADs getting changes. This is another video with pawn window. The challenges are going to be up on the site for this week, along with a new design layout as well. If you aren't sure, the site is Riot approved, and you can get like headsets, paysafe even games for literally just playing League either in their customs or in your normal rank games. So you head over to the challenges, you find my name, and you sign up. There's going to be a paysafe card though to win every time I talk about the site to say thank you, so throw the video a like if you do, but leave a comment down below to be entered. So we're also actually right, there's 3 big nerfs coming in and then 4 buffs to champions who you probably didn't expect actually. So let's kick this off with the nerfs first, but because I love you guys, I'm going to put timestamps in the description if you want to skip to the buffs. Riot bent these over pretty hard in some cases. Jhin I think is the worst hit though, 3 separate abilities in one patch. So his passive is the first one. Your base move speed is to 3% from 10%, and the attack speed ratio though is increased to 6% per 10% attack speed from 4%. This is after you crit, by the way. Your WAD ratio is going to be down to 50% from 70, though the damage to minions is actually up a little bit by 10%. And your ultimate finally cancelling probably doesn't reduce the cooldown anymore. Basically the tooltip doesn't say it anymore that it actually does that. I think this is a pretty big kick in the nuts for any Jhin players, right? Like it won't outright ruin him, I don't think, but combined, like these 3 changes are going to make him weaker. What the passive actually looks like, because it's hard to kind of tell from the numbers, I guess, but you're going to start at 3% now, right? And armor pen builds actually get like attack speed as your 4th item, so you won't even get much from the ratio buff until late game. Anyway, it'll be 3% plus you get like 30% attack speed from rapid fire cannon, which would be 18% move speed instead of 12%. When we get to super late game though, so like once we actually have that 4th item, we have the rapid fire cannon, it would be 21% overall, and it would have been 22% before, so it's not actually too different. Basically late game you're not going to feel it, right? Or if you go the crit build early, you're not going to feel it either, but if you go the armor pen build, then it is actually going to be a big hit until much later. So you'll be fine with that change though, but not with this one. So the WAD ratio is down to 20%. It might not seem like a ton, but I think it is actually going to be late game. If you think about it, like having any Infernal Drakes, right, plus the AD from your items and your passive, like that is a ton of AD. Late game, you're definitely not going to do as much damage with this anymore. It's kind of more like a utility tool than damage, to be honest. It's kind of like how it is in the lane phase. If you think about it, like you use it to snare and to set stuff up. You don't really use it for poke and damage. So in my opinion, that is going to be the right way to change it. Your ultimate like changing is going to be annoying, but not the biggest deal if you're more careful. You can't just randomly use it and then be like, oh, actually now I'm just going to cancel it for a 40% reduction or like 30% if you miss the first shot. Jhin without his ultimate absolutely sucks dick. So looking at it like that is kind of the problem, I guess, more than anything else. Now Ashe is the next one though, and this is something I did not expect at all. Like both of the changes are things that actually seem quite harsh and a bit random. So the Q duration now is down to 4 seconds from 5, and your ultimate damage is down 50 rank 1, 75 rank 2, and 100 rank 3. The Q nerf I think is the big one, especially right for team fights or kind of early lane pressure, but there are actually 6 different things that I can think of that it's going to affect. So number 1, the damage without this basically sucks, so there's going to be less downtime. That's always going to be a bad thing. Number 2, your lane will have to like exit trades earlier, I guess, less damage for the mana cost as well. Number 3, if it runs out mid-fight in team fights, you're pretty boned. Number 4, you have to restack it up after, so you're going to have to do that more often now. It takes time and it's dangerous to auto while you don't have your Q because you're not doing much damage. Number 5, 4 seconds is not that long when you factor in like kiting or movement basically. So if you just stand there still and attack people, then 4 seconds is a lot, but who is going to do that? And finally number 6, remember another big thing that is applies on all 3 bolts of your runen. So it's actually a decrease in AoE damage as well as single target. That is a lot of things in my opinion that make this suck for an Ashe player. Like Ashe is still okay, but the ranger's focus is really the thing that makes her so strong, and targeting the duration was probably the harshest way they could actually nerf this. The ultimate damage I think is pretty odd though, right? Like I guess it's not really why you do that. Like you use it for the crowd control, not for the damage part, but it just makes it a little bit less deadly. Like getting hit by an arrow isn't going to be a death sentence. Like it might make fighting back a bit easier. Late game like 100 damage off is kind of a lot, I guess, but it actually does 600 damage on live right now. It's still going to do 500. That is a lot, to be honest, especially on a lower health target with like little to no magic resist. So like ulting an AD carry or a mid laner is actually going to do a lot of damage. We're going to have to see how many of those things, like the the 6 I talked about are actually going to be big deals when we play her, but potentially this could send her back to like middle of the pack territory. I doubt it. I expect her to still be decent, but the duration could really suck and mess with a lot of things. I've never really had like a fight and run out of my Q before when it's on, like in a duel, right? It's normally over by 5 seconds, but I'm not sure if it'd be over by 4 or not. So the last nerf we did guess right, and it is going to be to Sivir, and we also guessed right that they're going to be targeting her W bounces. So the W bounce damage is going to be reduced by an extra 10% at all ranks, and your R passive attack speed when you're using your W is going to be decreased by 10, 15, and 20%. It's actually funny because a lot of people don't realize this, but yes, your ultimate actually gives you attack speed when your W is active. So at first glance, this might not look like nothing, but I think this might add a decent chunk to keep her in line with like Ashe and Jhin. The thing is, you have to remember that if Jhin and Ashe get nerfed in the same patch, right, and Sivir didn't, then I'm pretty sure she'd take over the #1 spot really easily, and small nerfs to kind of bring her down in line makes sense. Your W bouncing and stuff is 100% the thing that is strong on Sivir. Like the AD reduction will be a bit of a difference. You get Infinity Edge and Essence Reaver, so that's a decent amount of AD. Your ultimate as well, most people don't realize, right? Like you auto faster when your W is active because of the passive on it, so it's going to make her less bursty, I think, like less deadly straight away in a fight. Like 20% reduction in attack speed rank 3 makes her less of like a crit burst machine than before, I guess. And remember, it's not just the 3 autos from your W either. It's actually going to be 4, so it's going to be the first auto attack just by normal, then the auto reset with your ricochet for the 3 very quick follow-up ones. That is a ton of damage in a very short space of time, so this will reduce that, which is good, I think. But like, I still think she's going to be really strong at that 3-item power spike. It's going to be a ton of damage. Overall, she's probably a bit weaker later into the game, not as much of a hyper carry as before, which I think she shouldn't be anyway. Like, she's still very good, but she might not be that hyper carry anymore. So those are the 3 nerfs coming into 6.17 at the moment, but we have 4 buffs, and to champions I didn't actually think would get it, honestly. Like, I only predicted 1 out of these 4. Ezreal is the first one, and you guys know that I love playing Ezreal, so this is awesome for me, but it's actually a decent buff. Like, I did not expect it at all. Ezreal is very much like, if you're good with him, then you can always do well. Like, I think it's kind of similar to Vayne in that way. Like, the better you are with him, the harder you're going to carry. Now, anyway, so the changes to his passive, that is what they're buffing, and it's going to be the attack speed. So it scales now 10, 12, 14, and 16% from 10%, and it's going to be scaling with levels. So 1, 6, 11, and 16. Remember, this is going to stack up to 5 times, okay? So what this actually looks like is, instead of just a flat 50% throughout the game, like 50% bonus attack speed, it's going to be 50% first, then 60, then 70, then 80% late game. Late game fight, that's going to be a 30% buff to his attack speed from what it actually is on live. Now, rapid fire cannon is 30% as well, by the way. So that's like an extra attack speed items worth in a buff. This is a big deal, not only because you get that extra 30%, but just because how we're going to use it. So the first one is your ultimate gives a stack per target hit. So in a team fight, if you hit 5 champions and or like minions as well, you get full stacks at the very start. The second thing is late game, you have Mirror Mana and Blade the Ruined King, and that's going to be a ton more percentage health damage, but overall damage as well from autos. You're going to be a lot better versus tanks now, which was always a big problem. And the thing is, like, you can never really buy attack speed because you don't want the crit at all. Now you get more for free though. The third thing is Triforce, Blade the Ruined King, and Mirror Mana like build with this buff is going to be amazing. Like, I think it just buffed the more carry orientated build. By the way, if you actually go this like Triforce build and stuff, then get a Frozen Mallet to replace the slow you normally get with the Iceborne. It's actually a really good alternative, and it gives you more damage, but still the kite as well. So this has surprised me a lot, actually. Like, Koreans already love this guy so much, and now they're going to buff him. And it's weird when this is like the world patch, right? This is what we're getting close to now, which puts Koreans versus the rest of the world. Okay, we've got 3 more to get through, and I don't want to make this too long. So Vayne is next, and this is the only buff we actually guessed was going to be coming. So the bonus physical damage is now up later. So it's no change at rank 1, then it's 5, 10, 15, 20 more. At rank 5, it's going to be 70% AD now instead of 50%. This is actually a pretty cool change, considering we had that buff recently where it's better with crit now, like it crits with your auto now instead of it used to being different. It's even more reason though to max your Q first, and I like this personally, but it does depend on the Vayne a bit better. Like, basically it's better for lane and trading and juking more in fights because you have more stealth, but less damage if you just stand there and auto attack. It would still be a good thing though if you get Blade the Ruined King first, bit of AD, but it's going to be a bigger buff if you get a crit build though. So Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, Bloodthirster, for example, right? Gosu did this a while ago with Storm Rages, and it worked pretty good as well. But basically though, because your Q can crit, that Q damage now with even more AD is going to really hurt. You kind of turn this into more of a bursty build, like playing Vayne. It's kind of weird, but it makes her better versus squishy targets for sure, which might help right now actually. It is going to make Vayne better, no doubt about that. It doesn't make her OP though. It is going to help, I guess. In my opinion, you max this now first, but again, it's personal preference and down to how you play play Vayne. Now, Jinx is another one getting a buff. Not too major, but I'm so confused, honestly. Like, Jinx is already doing well. Like, she's super strong. She can compete with Ashe and Jhin as well. I think actually at the moment on this patch before the nerfs, not utility-wise, but damage-wise at least, and her ability to carry is so high. It makes zero sense, in my opinion, to nerf top tier and then buff her as well. Like, maybe for competitive, I get it, but for solo queue, just prepare your bummos. So the change is to her ult though, so at least it's a small change. Your minimum damage ratio is up to 15% from 10, but your maximum is 150% now from 100%. An extra whole 50% on that is kind of crazy, and it's going to do a ton now if you hit a long range-ish, I guess, ultimate. I say I guess because the max range is actually 1500, and that's not too bad really. It's not like cross map or anything like that. Like Chomper's range is 900. That is the range you have to place it. That gives you an idea. Maybe it's like half a lane. Anyway, to me, I think she will pop off now in solo queue even more. Like, she already has super high damage, right? Safe-ish kind of in fights with that high range, and Runins to have the AoE crit rockets. The issue is more like the top tier being nerfed to what I think is her current level, and now a bit of a buff to her as well, which should actually just make her better. So the last buff is going to be to Draven. What a world that we live in where Draven is actually getting a buff. Again, this is just to his ultimate, kind of like Jinx. So the mana cost is down by 20 to 100, which is nice, I guess, but the cooldown is going to be lowered by 10 seconds as well. It is not the biggest changes at all, but this is like a gentle nudge to remind you how strong this guy actually can be if you play him properly. Riot do this all the time. It's a placebo buff, right? Like, it's basically making you think, oh look, this guy's going to be stronger, even though he's about the same, just so you play him and realize he's strong anyway. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to share and like if you did, but for now, I'll leave you with the robots.